And silence is another way of saying what I want to say. Lying is another way of hoping it will go away. And you were always my mistake.
And also the fact that if you're not like specifically classified, it's people have preconceptions, and they can be put off by if a band is called alternative or if it's called heavy metal. If you don't have that, then I suppose you're open to even more people.
It works both ways. I think if you don't have the classification, it's sometimes in a way you're not giving anyone a reason to listen to you either.
Okay.
Like if I came up and today with a new band and said we were Viking metal, there's probably about 10,000 people that would check it out purely because we say we're Viking metal. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I just come out and say we're a band, we're called Porcupine Tree, nobody's going to check it out. You have to give them a reason to want to check it out. The only reason anyone has ever had to check out Porcupine Tree has been the music.
Yeah.
And so it works both ways. That kind of, and I think, as I said at the beginning, it was quite frustrating that no one would listen to us.
Paid off now.
It's paid off in the long term, but God, it's taken a long time.
Yeah.
The track, The Incident, which is a track that clocks in at 55 minutes, and how did you dare to write such a long song? I mean, it's 14 parts. There is less to almost no repetition of the track. How did you develop that track?
Like a book. I started at the beginning and I finished at the end, and I very much thought of it maybe more like a film script. I almost thought of it as like character development, plot development, trying to build things in a very organic, natural way. It's not the first time I tried to do this. I tried over the years to do a long album-length piece before, and it's not easy because it can fall apart very easily. It can disappear into a self-indulgent kind of mess. And the attempts I tried in the past I've given up. I've given up and ended up abandoning the project. But this time, for whatever reason, everything just seemed to fall into place. It just seems to work. How did I dare? I didn't even think of it as a confrontational thing. I just thought of it as something exciting for me musically and stimulating for me musically to try.
Does that get more difficult as time goes on?
It gets more difficult to not repeat yourself.
On the album, I have a couple of favorite parts, like the lyric for Time Flies. I like that lyric a lot. I like the music for Your Unpleasant Family, as well as the first 1.5 minutes of I Drive the Hearse.
Okay.
How do you manage to maintain the focus when you put the pieces together and decide which track is number 5, which is number 1? How did you manage to develop that, if you see what I mean?
I know what you mean. On this occasion, it was quite easy because I wrote the piece in the same order that you hear it.
Okay.
The band also were involved in some of the parts, but generally speaking, the order that you hear it in is the order that it was written in. And every piece of music grew very organically out of the preceding piece of music. So for that reason, you didn't get any kind of very sudden shifts. Everything was very natural. So every day I would go to my studio and I would listen to where I'd got to, and I would listen to, I don't know, say I got to the 25-minute mark. I would listen to those first 25 minutes, and then I would think, what feels like it should happen now, you know. Rather than, I think, in the past, writing a lot of pieces of music and then trying to find a way to put the jigsaw puzzle together. This time it was a much more natural, organic process. So the musical journey that you hear was very much the musical journey that I went on as a writer. And I think that's why it has such a natural, hopefully very organic sense of flow.
Last time you were here was Anathema, and this time was Katatonia, which I think personally are good choices. Is that something down to a member of the band, yourself, or it is down to like you guys?
It's usually me that chooses the bands. I like the idea of having bands that that I think our audience will appreciate, but that may not be familiar with. Katatonia is a good example. Katatonia is a great band. They have a great following, but they're all heavy metal fans. And I don't think Katatonia are a heavy metal band anymore. They were a long time ago. They were a heavy metal band, And I've seen, I think Anathema have the same thing. I've seen Katatonia and Anathema both play their own shows.
Yeah.
The audience is all metal fans, and I think in a way it's a shame, because I think their music could appeal to a much wider audience. So one of the things about having Katatonia with us this time is that our audience, yeah, of course we do have heavy metal fans in our audience too, but we also have people who like progressive music, alternative music, and I think they'd all love Katatonia. So one of the things about Katatonia is trying to introduce them, if you like, to a more progressively inclined audience, who I think will love them, will love their music.
And it was the same thing with Anathema.
Exactly the same with Anathema, because for historical reasons, both those bands have a predominantly metal following. But I think both of those bands have long ago kind of transcended the metal. But yes, they still have heavy sections, but as Porcupine Tree,
they could appeal to a lot more people than being exposed to.
I don't know if you've heard their new record, Idle. There's a track on there called Idle Blood, which is a beautiful kind of orchestral ballad almost.
And the new Katatonia?
Yeah.
It's really nice.
It's great, it's a beautiful record. There's a few metal bits on it, but to think that this band would only ever have the opportunity to appeal to a heavy metal audience, for me, is like a tragedy. So it's trying in a way to pick bands that need, or I think that the Porcupine Tree audience would really respond well to. I love them. I'm a big fan anyway. They're noble reasons. They're friends of mine.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan, and I think that their music deserves to reach a more eclectic audience.
I'd agree myself.
What incidents do you see will happen in your life in the coming years?
Oh gosh. Well, it's the funny thing is that life is very strange in the sense that it never really goes where you expect it to go, does it? Now, when I was about 20 years old, just starting my musical career, I had a few musical projects, and Porcupine Tree was one of those musical projects. But if you'd said to me, which one do you think is most likely to succeed, it would have probably been the bottom of my list. And it's very odd how life constantly surprises you. And I like that in a way, it's you ask me what incident is I don't know, and I'm glad that I don't know. I hope it's something good. One day I would like to work more as a producer. If you're asking me what would I like, where could I see myself in 10 years, I really love working with other bands and helping other bands to make records, and I haven't really done a lot of that in the last few years because of the success of my own stuff, but I would love to go back to working with other bands and just helping other bands to make records. That's because I think that's really what I love doing the most, making records. Touring is fun some of the time, promotion is fun some of the time, but generally speaking, the thing that I originally fell in love with was this idea of making records, in being in the studio, painting with sound, to put it in a pretentious way. So I would love to full-time producer at some point, maybe in 10 years from now. Still got plenty of time.
Just out of curiosity, what do you think about Devil Doll?
Devil Doll, I admire it, but I don't like it.
Shame.
Well, I've tried really hard.
It was just because this album, The Incident, it's kind of like that. Of course, not musical the same, but the way the music goes.
No, I agree.
That's
I really admire him and what he's done, but I've tried really hard to listen to the records, and I just can't quite get into it. It's something that's a little bit too neo-classical about it, and a bit pompous.
It's like King Diamond, you love it or hate it.
Yeah. I think that's right. Or Magma, the French band Magma.
Yeah.
I mean, I love Magma, but I know a lot of people can't stand it. It's one of those things you either love it or it's that kind of semi-operatic, and Devil Doll has that kind of operatic thing too. But I really admire it. I think it's extraordinary and totally unique, but I just can't listen to it.
Accept that.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
You're
Thanks very much for the interview, boss.
Thank you.
You're obviously a fan.